Hi, I'm Lisa Beck. I'm the emergency manager for the Technical College System of Georgia, and we're going to present some information about how we opened our system office in Atlanta, as well as our 22 colleges across the state. One of the things that we think will be helpful is to examine what authorities have to say about our reopening practices, and one of the most important things that we had to keep in mind throughout the process is that this information changes frequently. And so we'll start at the federal level of authority with some of the things that they added to our processes. Of course, the Office of the President is very important with the many executive orders that have been handed down, the most recent of which involves President Biden's plan to respond for COVID. Throughout the presentation, you'll see places where you can search for these direct sources so you can keep up with the changes that are involved. We're also going to look a little bit at what the Centers for Disease Control have to say about reopening during COVID, as well as the Occupational Safety and Health Administration that we all refer to as OSHA. There is much CDC guidance that's out there, and it's somewhat hard to keep up with. Again, that's why we've included some of the sources here, but some of the most important pieces of CDC guidance include their return to work guidance, which has been updated many times since last March. There are brand new COVID-19 one-stop shop toolkits, which were just put together a week or so ago and are designed with specific businesses, social organizations like houses of worship, childcare facilities, and things like that in mind. And in each one of the toolkits, there are resources, pieces of documentation, signs, things like that that can be used in each of those particular areas. There's also a very important document out about cleaning and disinfecting your facility, which again has been updated many times throughout this period. It's very useful to know what kinds of materials to use, when they should be used, and things like that. OSHA guidance is also being continually updated. It was just updated in the last 24 hours as it happens. The most important document is protecting workers. It's a brand new document that's out on the OSHA website. The guidance for preparing workplaces for COVID-19 is specifically for businesses, as well as the COVID FAQs that they've provided. The FAQs do provide good information about COVID in general, but with OSHA's guidance, it's specifically designed to focus on those kinds of needs in the workplace. As far as Georgia authorities go, we really lean on three different sources: the Office of the Governor, the Georgia Department of Public Health, as well as local public health districts. Under the governor's direction, there are many emergency declarations that have been listed, the most important of which is the public health state of emergency. He's also described many executive orders throughout this period. Again, one of those that's most important is one that's entitled Empowering a Healthy Georgia. This executive order is the specific document that describes what we should be doing in Georgia in places like businesses, houses of worship, and social gatherings and things like that. His executive orders can all be found at the site that's listed below. The Georgia Department of Public Health, of course, has been given directive to organize most of the responses to COVID in our state. They're responsible for a myriad of things under normal conditions. In particular, during COVID, they are responsible for what's known as the federal stockpile, which is the location of where our PPE is distributed from, as well as vaccines that come into the state from the federal government. They're responsible for developing and overseeing the vaccination protocols. They give much health guidance. Their website is very valuable as they update their guidance frequently. They produce many publications, reports, and have lots of resources that are available for each of the public. In particular, there are two documents that businesses will want to look at: their return to work guidance and their daily status report. It's kind of a dashboard that gives you real-time status updates on positive cases, deaths, hospitalizations, and things like that. Both of those sources that are listed there will be very valuable to you as you reopen your business. In Georgia, we have local public health districts. If you'll go to the source that's listed below, you can find exactly who it is that you can contact relative to COVID and other kinds of health concerns in your specific local county level. The folks at the public health districts are the ones who are responsible for disseminating and making sure that vaccines get out to the public. They're also the people who do the specific contact tracing. And so if you have concerns about either of those topics in particular, you're probably much better off in contacting your local public health district for that information rather than the state public health folks. One important definition to keep in mind for everything that we do when we set up our practices for opening is what a close contact is. And it's something that none of us have memorized necessarily, but it's important to have it by our side so that we can make sure that we're protecting those around us. The definition reads, someone who has contact within 6 feet of an infected person for a cumulative period of 15 minutes or more over a 24-hour period, either with or without a mask. It's very important to understand that we could come in contact with many positive folks during a period of a 24-hour day, and so we have to keep those things in mind. In addition to that, another part that's very difficult to understand, again, unless you really pay attention to this, is that we can be exposed to someone who's positive 2 days before they actually show those symptoms, and also 2 days before a test specimen is taken from a person who ends up testing positive. So there's a 2-day window that we also have to be concerned with both our employees and the clients that we serve. When the TCSG system office reopened in Atlanta, we had 4 major areas that we really wanted to focus on, the most important of which really were access control and physical distancing. We'll talk about both of those in just a second. We also did lots of work with hygiene and sanitation, and we produced many return to work documents that were provided not only to our system office employees, but also to our colleges. We will be able to provide those documents for your use later. In the world of access control, the most important thing is to make sure that, keeping in mind what a close contact definition means, we have to know who's coming in and out of our buildings so that any kind of tracing can be done in the future. The way that we control our building is through temperature screening, using staggered presence of our employees and workers that come in and out of our building, offering very liberal telework options whenever available. We are an office that does have public access, and so we seriously control those things, again, with access control. And we also have posted notices all over the building, so no matter whether someone is a regular employee of our building or a visitor just for the day, they can make sure that they know what they're supposed to be doing in the building. We spent lots of time controlling our physical distancing. Everybody sort of has in their head now that physical distancing means 6 feet. Well, keep in mind that it means 6 feet in all directions. And so we have to be very mindful with our employees, in particular of open access areas like the one shown in the picture, as well as in cubicle areas and areas like that that don't have the same level of security that others might feel in a closed office. As far as physical distancing went in our building, we spent a lot of time making sure that our workrooms and our break rooms were safe for everyone. We prohibited eating from those areas. We encourage everyone and provide disinfecting wipes everywhere to be able to sanitize all pieces of equipment after use. We're very careful about our conference areas, any kind of a meeting area, limiting those areas to 50% occupancy. We used a value that was defined by the federal government of 113 square feet per person to determine that for the 50% occupancy of a room. But many other areas, businesses, et cetera, might find that using a number that's closer to 150 square feet per person might be more useful in high traffic areas. We also provided any number of plexiglass barriers throughout our building, not just at the open access areas, but also in our conference areas, et cetera, of various sizes and shapes that people found that was comfortable for them. Our building also has very seriously controlled physical distancing in elevators with signage posted, stairwells, restrooms, and fountains. Our fountains in our building have been closed throughout the duration. Our restrooms have been physically distanced to a maximum of 50% occupancy for each of those. And in our stairwells, we also have notices that folks need to remain protected and careful of close contact. In the area of hygiene and sanitation, we require masks of everyone who enters our building, including visitors. We make sure that we provide those for folks that don't have adequate masks. We focus on hand sanitizing and hand washing in each area where those things are able to be enforced. We do lots of surface sanitizing. We've increased the disinfecting and sanitizing in our building. We've also provided, and everyone should have a measure in place for this, an isolation room, where if someone does become ill throughout the day or becomes concerned that they may become ill, we can isolate that person until they can be transported out of the building safely. And then we can also make sure that that room is sanitized when they leave. When our colleges reopened across the state, they had some of the similar kinds of concerns that all of us have. And in order to communicate those things, our system office provided very good leadership to all parts of the colleges. We had a COVID team that advised the presidents, the vice presidents, et cetera, every level of leadership at the colleges. Continuing from that period, we also have provided a COVID case reporting portal. The colleges regularly report the number of positive cases that they have in their areas, something you've probably seen in other colleges and universities across the country, as well as our own K-12 systems here in the state. When our colleges reopened, we did so very slowly with what we called a limited laboratory approval process. In the very beginning, before a college could offer even a small laboratory setting for our students, we personally approved those things in our office. We have since then allowed them to do those approvals on their own college campuses across the months as they've encountered local kinds of concerns. But that's how we started very slowly to open up our colleges. Our colleges, like many businesses, have open access opportunities. We have student affairs, admissions offices, the security offices, place like that. And the colleges had to be very careful about opening those kinds of areas also. In addition to those kinds of concerns with both classroom and open access, we also offer what's known as live work. We have cosmetology salons, we have dental offices and things like that throughout our colleges. And so we had to be very careful to not only follow federal, state, and local guidelines, but also to follow the professional guidelines that were given out by each of those areas. If we can be of any help, we're more than happy to try and point you in the right direction.